Hey everybody, Joel from The Board Game Mechanics. Today I'm taking a look at Legends of Novus from Fundamental Games. And what?
If this review blows, I'm burning off your face. Just saying.
I, I guess I gotta do a good review. Anyway, let's go to the table, take a look at this guy, and we'll go from there. All right, I'm going to start off with two disclaimers right off the bat. These are all print and play, provided to me by Wes, the game creator. So these are not final components, not final art. Keep paying attention to the Kickstarter campaign, and you'll see the more final products and understand what they're going to be. But this is just a chance for us to take a look at some components and get a real basic overview of the game. The second thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to give you guys a full how to play on this game because there's a lot. I mean, it's a simple game, but there's a lot of rules to it. And the Hungry Gamer has a really good gameplay video up, so I will put a link to his video in the footer here. He did a nice job with that. So if you want to see more of a how to play video, go ahead and find that. But I'm just going to kind of go through these just different elements of the game here real quick. These are the characters. We have some nice art and clean graphic design. There's some iconography that's important in this game, but you can just see they did a nice job. They really took some care with the art. So these are the character cards that you're going to get in the game. This is my favorite deck. This is sleeve, so it's going to be a little hard to see. These are the reward cards. So these are the cards that are really neat. This is your equipment that you're going to get for the most part. So things that are going to make your character more powerful and allow you to get further in the game, get those in-game conditions to trigger for you and let you win. This is the encounter deck. So these are the things that you might encounter as you're going through the game. And again, really nice art on these. Some of it's not final, but I have full faith that the art in this game will be really good when it's done. But this is the encounter deck, and there's some just different symbology on there. Again, Hungry Gamers video is going to get into what all this stuff means. But these are the bad guys you're going to face. And it kind of, all in one card, tells you what the mobs are going to do, how they're going to respond to you, and how they're going to work, you know? Finally, there's the adventure deck. The adventure deck is another deck that's going to have a number of things happen in there for you. So there will be times when you get like temporary buffs. There are going to be treasures you find. There'll be some quests that you can complete. But these are things that you're going to get through your travels, and you can buy these cards as well as the reward cards that are going to be things that are just positive for you to have for your character. Finally, we have some classes. These are the classes that your character can play. They would need to match up as far as the symbol, the iconography of your character. And there are some dual classes in here, which are kind of cool. But there's a lot of different classes you can play, which is going to really help to add to the replay ability of the game. I should mention these ally cards too. You can get some allies throughout the game, which are again like another kind of reward almost. So again, we're print and play. So this isn't going to be final, production quality. These portfolios though are really neat. They keep your player organized and they are very simple. So you have your character there. And then you go ahead and drop your class down below there, a mage monk. So I would have a class that matches my character. And then over here I have this track, these tracks. Those are going to guide my experience and then my hit track. So an easy way to do that is just kind of keep some cubes on there. I used some basic stones when I was playing this game to just kind of keep track of that. Again, because I did a print and play copy of this game. And then worth noting on this as well, we have some skill slots here at the bottom that you can put those, skills that you acquire in the bottom there. And then over here, it's kind of neat. This is kind of like, it reminds me of almost like Diablo or something when I played Diablo, where there's like a head slot and then there's a couple items, Warcraft maybe even. It's just going to make sense to you if you've played a video game RPG. But you've got spots for items, feet, hands, body. You're going to put things like armor and weapons in there. And so as I gain these cards, it's going to show me, so this is a two-handed weapon. I can put that in a hand slot, but then my other hand slot's going to be occupied because it's two-handed. But then I have, a crossbow that I can put in that hand, and then I've got some shin guards, and just kind of a neat thing that is going to happen here as we're going through the game. And some items are really just universal. Other ones have iconography that needs to match up in order for it to be used and useful for your character. So just kind of neat that you have these items that are going to go on your sheet, and you just kind of can remember them by keeping. They've made things so streamlined that combat power is just a single variable. That's like there's not an armor class. There's not a whole lot of different things. Really, a simple way to do it. But I do like how these slots work. So let's get back here to the board here. Novus is this land. It's this island that is on this board. And I just have this like quad folded printed board. The final board is going to be, obviously on board quality stock. And I think it's going to be a 16 by 16 board is what I most recently saw, which is approximately the size I have here. It's a nice size. The game comes with standees, not miniatures. You could definitely upgrade this to having some miniatures if you wanted to, but the standees are just going to go on there. And throughout the game, I'm going to travel. And as I travel, I'm going to roll die. And these die are just going to basically, that's the distribution of the die faces. That the different symbols are going to mean I have different things happen. So this means either get some additional treasure or move another spot. So if I'm trying to cover a lot of ground, I might pick that, go an extra spot. If I need money, which money is really powerful in this game, I would take that. I would take that, getting the extra gold kind of option there. The cross swords is an encounter where I'm going to fight a beastie. The star is an adventure, adventure card, and then I could get a reward as well. So traveling is going to give me a lot of really good opportunities to get things to happen for me, and that's a big chunk of the game. Exploring is another part of the game that's pretty interesting too, and there is a location guide. So the location guide, if you end in a named location, you're going to go to that location guide. And it reminds me a little bit of a very, very simplified version of like maybe Tales of the Arabian Nights. But I'll get to that like in a little bit here when I talk about parallels there. So that isn't how to play the game, certainly. It's just an overview of what's going to be happening in the game. You'll combat things by rolling die and having advantages and disadvantages, but it's a single die roll. There's not a armor class or initiative or anything like that. Very streamlined, very, very quick to get to the table and quick to play game, and just very light. But it just gets you like that very just beginning taste of an RPG type universe. So we all have that friend, right? He's played World of Warcraft, he's played Skyrim, and then he's gotten on YouTube and he's watched people play Dungeons and Dragons now. Or he's watched Stranger Things, and he's like, oh, this Dungeons and Dragons thing seems really cool. Let's get into that and play. And you tell him, okay, we can do that. I've been playing since I was 13, so I've been playing for 20 years. There's quite a bit to learn. He doesn't believe you. He shows up, and you spend the first game night just talking about the basics of how to use the 10 different die that you need and filling out a character sheet to maybe play a month later, where you'll have to do a bunch of prep as the DM. You say, go buy the player's manual. 5th edition's great. They've streamlined it a ton. It's much quicker to learn. It's still this thick of a book, okay? And you say the character sheets, they're much, much easier than they used to be. You still have a front, a back, and a front to fill out, to get your character going and keep track of what's going on with that. And I love that. I absolutely love the depth of the game there. Absolutely love it. When I'm with my right group of D&D players, there's nothing better than playing D&D. It's just so fun to get out there and play pretend in an interactive, cool storytelling way. But there's so much system to learn there. So then someone like Goodman Games says, hey, you know what? Let's get that old school D&D feel back and let's make things simpler. So our character sheet's only a page, and that's awesome. It's way quicker. Here's their manual. It's 470 pages. So no matter what system you get into, you're going to have a bunch of just learning and having to teach. Unless you get into Legends of Novus, which has 16 pages and a small encounter guide. So you can play the game as is, and that's fine to play it as is. But what I think I would do is play it as is, whet their appetites for RPG games on a tabletop, and then you become the DM, and you add the narrative elements that this game doesn't have right now, and you add those extra storytelling bits to really reel them in, and then maybe you start exposing them to more and more of the D20 systems. Or maybe you stay here, because it's so much easier to say, here are your character sheets. It looks like what you remember from World of Warcraft. And you go and you loot a chest. And I take my deck of reward cards as the DM and I say, you find this card. You find a 2-handed hammer. Or I say, oh, you found this cool ring and check out what it does. And you keep the combat system because it's just so simple and streamlined and easy. And then you go and you fight mobs. And instead of going through the bestiary area and saying, what's the armor class for a Worgen that's got rabies, and also it's a full moon. You don't have to do all that. You can say, oh, hey, look, you encountered a swarm of rats. You encountered a stone sentinel. It's right there ready to go. So simplify your D&D nights with this. It's so quick, so easy. If you are a D&D player, that's my suggestion. You aren't going to feel the depth of game in this, because it's not. It's so streamlined and it's so simple and basic. But if you want to play D&D and you aren't there yet, great introduction. And you can build up to D&D with the system. I really like a game called Tales of the Arabian Nights. You're going to see where I'm going with this here in a second. It has figured out a way to add this narrative element by using this like reaction matrix. So there's all these different numbers you can look up in this game. And it's really great. And then you get this book of tales, and there are 2,600 encounters in this book where you read one of 2,600 encounters that can happen in this book. And then you have reactions based on like this matrix as well. A ton of choices. It's not one of, two things could happen, or if you're the right class, this will happen. I would love to see this Kickstarter go over so well that Fundamental Games can dedicate time to developing this for Novus. Saying that Novus has a book of encounters, and you look at your character class, and you look at your position on the map, or whatever cross-referencing things you can do, and then there's a specific response to your situation, your class, that happens in this book, and then you don't need a DM and you're playing D&D. Or at least most of it, the fun parts. So I think this has got a really cool combat system. I think it's got a really cool deck of loot. I think it's a really cool streamlined way to go. And it's for you if you've not played D&D. If it's for you if you've got friends that want to play D&D, but you're tired of spending 3 game nights explaining what armor class means. So, super streamlined, super easy to get to the table compared to D&D. And for that reason, I do suggest this game. I'm going to go ahead and give you some final thoughts on this back in the studio, and we'll wrap things up there. So I think you guys probably have a pretty good understanding of what I think of this game at this point, but I'm going to wrap it up with some final thoughts here. Some highlights for this game include the fact that the art in this game is very good. A lot of unique pieces of art put into this game. The landscapes that they did for this game are really impressive. I think that they have a nice depth to them. They make you feel like you're immersed into this world of like Novus. So I really like that for sure. I think that people who are just collectors of beautiful games might enjoy this game even for that, because this art, the style is a little different than some of the other styles you'll see out there, but just very high quality. So I think that the art prints in this are just a strong attraction to this game. I like the RPG elements and how they're done in like a light introductory way. So this is something that I think would be great for teaching younger kids how to play RPG games, or teaching people who haven't really played RPG games how to play them. Previously, I said this has got, like some of the way how things are laid out. It really does kind of connect to some of the RPG video games that are out there with the slotting and things like that. So I think that's a strong point for this game as well. I think the universe is super immersive, honestly. I just think the art really does play a big role in that, but just you feel like you're getting to understand these different regions of this island. So I think it's a cool RPG setting. And if you're tired of playing in, Waterdeep or whatever setting that you've been playing in, this is a kind of a change up, kind of a new place to play. So I think the universe is really neat, and I hope that they do a lot more with it. So I like that quite a bit. And the graphic design on these cards, it just makes a lot of sense. It matches up. It just makes it pretty simple. You see the symbols, they match. There's not a lot of having to hunt. So there are kind of, not a lot of rules, but there are many rules for how the system works. But I think once you get them down, the symbols and the card design and the layout makes it easy. So it's pretty easy to play. So the accessibility of this game, I think most anybody could play this game. I think this is going to be one that I would play with even maybe 8, 9, 10-year-olds. I think they could pick it up with just minimal help. They're going to need to be able to read the cards. So I think if you can read the cards, you can play the game. It's kind of what I would say for the rule on this. The theme is going to fit most everyone. There's always going to be people who have apprehensions about fantasy, magic, stuff like that. But most everyone I think is going to be okay with this game. This doesn't have an abundance of misogynistic art, which you can find in fantasy games sometimes. It doesn't have gore too much or anything like that. So I think it's got some nice art. but it's not over the top. It's not, trying to get cheap thrills or anything from being, like over the top. So it's nice art, and I think the theme and all that is going to not really offend anybody. I think it's going to be something that is broadly accepted. The fun on this game, I'm giving a 4 out of 5 because I really did enjoy this game. But I really, really enjoyed it when we started using a Dungeon Master. So when we started putting narrative in as an additional step in this game, I thought it was really fun. And we got kind of silly with it at times. But I like how it was really fun because the RPG elements in like a D20 system that I really enjoy are the storytelling. And I like the ability to have this open world kind of just be as big as your imagination. And you can do almost all of that with this simplified system. The parts of playing D&D or any other D20 game that I don't like are the like trying to look up what abilities do all the time, trying to figure out, what roles need to happen when, for little minute things to happen. And so I know that needs to happen sometimes when you get really involved with the universe. And I think that does add to the game sometimes. But this one is just a real stripped back, easy to play, just get it on the table version of that. So we were able to do a lot of the fun storytelling and have a lot of the adventure elements from a bigger RPG type campaign from character sheets and books and all that in a much more scaled down way, where it was just really quick to get on the table and get playing. So this required very little prep from us to have a DM kind of come in and just tell narrative story type stuff. But it did add to it quite a bit. The replayability, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. I mean, at this point, there's not a ton of stuff in there, but I hope, and I've said this in the review earlier, I hope that this Kickstarter is successful enough that Fundamental Games can dedicate themselves to this universe, this system, and keep developing it. And my ultimate dream for this, it would be so cool if they did have like that Matrices, Book of Tales kind of thing going on, like Tales of the Arabian Nights. So that way, there is no DM. We're all playing. We're all involved with a really immersive type game system. And I think this one's like seriously 2/3 of the way to being that. And I think it could be that. So I think it's pretty cool the way it is. I think that it has potential to be even cooler. But the replayability is at a 4 out of 5 right now, just because, I mean, there is a limited number of classes, limited number of characters, limited number of mobs, items, stuff like that. So I think you will eventually see the stuff repeat, but it's not going to be for a while. So it's pretty strong with the replayability. To get to that 5, I think it might eventually when they get more stuff for it out. So the design and the art is really the high point of this game. The art in this game is really excellent. The design of the cards really makes a lot of sense. It's just pretty good. So who's this game for? Well, I think this is a good teaching tool. I think if people are looking for an RPG to teach what real basic RPG skills are about, like combat with die rolling, with making decisions and trying to figure out how to equip yourself to be a better character, this is going to be a real quick introduction to that. And it's going to be a good teaching tool that you could scale up. Like I said, you could add more levels of complexity in like homebrewed situations. Who knows? Maybe they'll add to the system too and add more complexity where you'll have, like acrobatics checks or things like that later in the game. I honestly think this is just such an introduction to this system that it's just got such potential, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. I think novice RPG players will enjoy this too, and by that I mean people who have played D&D when they were younger, but they don't have that time to dedicate to creating big campaigns, big narratives. They just want something quick to get on the table and play. Just get that that game going. And kind of related to that, board gamers who aren't necessarily RPG players, but occasionally have an itch to play something a little more thematic, play something a little more RPG-ish. So I think that those two groups would really benefit from playing this game or enjoying this game. I think overall it's for them. I'm really going to keep an eye on this one. I'm very curious about where this system's going to go and what's going to happen with it. And it's probably on Kickstarter right now, if you're watching this in June or July. So if it looks like it's for you, the price point on it's really good too, actually. When you compare that to other, RPG systems in a box or like go explore this universe in a box kind of systems, we're usually looking at $100 plus on those. So this one's a lot less expensive. And then beyond that, I love Gloomhaven. It's a great game, and I'm not trying to bash Gloomhaven, but this game you could get out, put it on the table, play a game of it, put it away and the amount of time it takes to set up Gloomhaven and get started with your characters and things like that. So much quicker gameplay, much quicker setup, and just going through it. And then there's still like ways that you can do the campaign stuff and enjoy that. You're going to miss some of the cool mechanics in like a more advanced game like Gloomhaven or D&D. But if you just want to like find a narrative tool to tell a story and just kind of enjoy some fun fantasy adventure, this one's worth checking out probably. So I've been Joel. This has been the Board Game Mechanics, and I hope this review was okay and I don't get my face burned off by a dragon. But anyway, we'll see. If this is my last review, then I guess look for the dragon because he's responsible for this being my last review. So anyway, keep gaming. And if you like this review, maybe think about subbing to us. Go to bgmechanics.com. We've got a podcast there, a bunch of stuff. We're really proud of the podcast. We try and be pretty wackadoo and zany, which I think I just coined the term wany. So anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate you. And look forward to comments and subs. Thanks again, and keep gaming.